Welcome back. In this lesson, we are going to prepare our little snowmen and women for 3D printing. So let's jump back over into object mode and let's Boolean our parts together. So we'll just click on the arms here. And remember in the beginning, we did our bool tool, but we used auto booleans to union these together. And that way the meshes would like blend together. But for the arms, the nose, and the hat, we're going to do brush boolean unions, just in case we ever want to come back and adjust the placement of the arms or the nose or the hat. We'll have that flexibility. So I always want y'all to be flexible designers and try to be non-destructive as much as you can. So really, we only did one destructive move here, and that's okay if you know that we're probably not going to move these spheres around. We could have done it a different way, but just wanted to show you the difference of kind of how it works. All right, so first thing we're going to do is Boolean these together. So let's click on the arms, shift click on the body, and hit Control plus, and that will add the arms. We got our nice wireframe box. We can click on the nose and shift click on the body here and do Control plus, and that will add a little wireframe there. And we can do the hat, and maybe even drop this hat in just a little bit, maybe even move it forward just a bit, maybe like that, just so it makes it a little easier for this curve here to 3D print. It's pretty steep right there, so I think it should be fine. But just, dropping it in just a little bit more to give our printer some help. And let's look at it from the front. I'm just going to take a look. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then we'll do shift click on the body and do Control plus to add the hat. And there we go. And it might take a second, especially if you have a slower computer, because remember, we have all this geometry, all these polygons. This is probably the heaviest poly count design that we've done in this entire training series. So if your computer is like going really slow, or if you get a not responding kind of wheel of death for Blender, it's just because we have all these poly counts. And if it's just kind of lagging ridiculously for you, you can always go into the modifiers and turn off the multi-res. Don't delete it, but just turn it off, and that will help you just Boolean them together real quick, and then we can turn it back on before we lock everything down. So that may help if your computer is struggling. So I'm going to turn the wireframes back off. I have everything Boolean together. Let's go ahead and flatten the bottom too. Let's add, just for foundation and just so we can get a nice, flat surface area on our print bed, we're going to add a square and kind of flatten out the bottom of our snowman. So do Shift S, and we're going to do cursor to world origin, and it should pop back right there. And do Shift A to add a cube. And we can do 25 millimeters. That should be enough. There we go. That's great. And if it is slow, you can also jump out of Eevee. Eevee may slow your computer down. So just make sure you maybe jump back into object mode, and that may speed things up for you as well. So I'm going to do G and Z and just bring this down and maybe just cut a little bit of that this last button here, just so we have a nice, we're not breaking our 45-degree rule. And there we go. And we'll do, make sure you have your cube selected and shift click on the body and do Control minus on the numpad. And it may take a second, but it should cut off a bottom so that we have a nice surface area for our 3D printer. And one thing I also like to do, and want y'all to get in the habit of too, is if you want to, you can mark your design. So maybe put your logo or your name or your website or anything, your Instagram, your Twitter, anything you want. So I'm going to add some text. I'm going to do Control 7 to look at the bottom, and do Shift right click to bring the cursor to the bottom kind of left corner there. And we're going to add some text. So Shift A, and we'll add some text. And it's upside down or reversed. So let's just rotate that around the x-axis 180. That way it'll be looking at us, and we'll read a little bit more easier. And we can hit Tab to go into edit mode, and just hit backspace and type anything you want. ptt.live is what I'm going to put. Go back into object mode, and then I'm just going to hit S to scale that up, and G to move it around. And let's add a solidify modifier. Maybe do like 0.5 millimeters of thickness, and we want even thickness and high quality normals. And it's right on the edge, so I'm going to hit G and Z to bring it on down. And we can kind of just let it sit there. We're going to subtract that. But for now, we're going to keep it. I don't want to convert it to a mesh just yet, because, if we ever want to come back and change that, we could just tab and make adjustments. So that's looking good. Now, just for good practice, we've got a bunch of items here. Let's parent all these together just so that, if we move this around, we can just shift click on all these layers and maybe hold Control to get the text there, and just click and hover over the snowman, hold Shift and drop those into the snowman body. And it is taking a little bit longer than usual because of our high poly count. We've got close to about 500,000 faces here. So you should have just one layer here with everything parented inside, and we can go ahead and break this down for 3D printing. So we're going to keep the flexible design right here, maybe turn it off for just a second. And the reason I'm turning it off is because we're going to duplicate it, but I don't want to duplicate our 500,000 polygon design. So we'll just right click, hit duplicate while it's turned off. And then that way, we don't bog Blender down with too many faces. Or if you have like a slow computer, it's not going to destroy your computer. So I've got the original turned off. Let's rename the new collection 3D Print Design, because we're going to apply all these modifiers and get it ready for printing. So now you should have just this one snowman with all the layers, and we're going to apply all the booleans. And an easy way to do that is with the bool tool. So just make sure you have your snowman.001 selected and go to your bool tool. And underneath the brush booleans, you should see properties here. If you twiddle that open, you should see it says canvas, and we want to apply all. And that will apply all these booleans all at once. So let's just hit apply all, and it'll go, and it'll apply each of one of those in order of operation, one after the other. And there we go. And then notice we still have our text here, and that's because it is, let me slide this over just so you can see. It is it's not a mesh. It is like a curve or some text. So let's pick our text, right click it, and say convert to mesh. It will turn to a little triangle. And then now we can, make sure you have your text selected, and then shift click on the snowman and do Control-. And there we go. You can kind of cut out, your text there. And we'll just go ahead and apply that. And we don't need that layer anymore, so we can just delete it. And there we go. We've got our snowman. We've added everything together. You should have a pretty cool looking snowman. But last thing, before we send this off to print, let's go back into sculpt mode and make any last changes. What I like to do is, since we booleaned all these together, we have like really hard edges on our designs here. So I want to just kind of smooth those out just a little bit. Let's turn our X symmetry on, and we can just do a smooth brush, and I'm going to make it really small, maybe somewhere in there. Just kind of smooth those out. And, I think it just looks a little less computery. It'll make it look kind of more connected, like somebody smushed the tree stick into the snow here. Let's just mush that in. There we go. And since we had symmetry turned on, it did it on the other side for us. Again, it's all about the details. And the reason we can blend these together now is because we booleaned all the meshes together. So now Blender sees all of these as one solid mesh. So we're just kind of blending them now. And that's the workflow I do when doing kind of like box modeling with sculpting. So you kind of do it all the booleans last, but you'll have to apply them so that you can do this kind of blurring technique or kind of blending everything together. And let's do it up here on the hat as well. And this I might make a little bigger. And the reason I want to do it under the hat is just to kind of make it more of a curve. That may help when going to 3D print this curvature right here. That way, help our little 45-degree roll kind of make the angle less steep, if you will. So just tiny little things, that will help your designs out. And it's pretty tight in there. I don't even know. May have to. Let's go into edit mode. Let's actually go inside. Let's see what's going on here. Yeah, it's pretty clipped. Maybe we can. Doesn't look like we can mush that. We can try though. Let's try it. So I'm gonna go back. Maybe go inside. See if I can. Oh yeah. Okay, so I can smooth it from the inside. I didn't know we could do that, but I just went inside of the hat there. Just kind of soften that edge a little bit. Yeah, I'm liking that. And that's looking pretty awesome. So I'm very happy with that. Hopefully you've got a really cool snowman. Let's go ahead and export this out for 3D printing. Let's check our bottom. Nice. We got a nice flat bottom. We've got some texture on our arms and on our nose and on the hat. And we've got this scared little snowman. So make sure you have your snowman selected on the 3D print design. We'll go into object mode, and I'm just going to take a look in Eevee, and that looks pretty awesome with the lighting and the rendering. And so now we'll do 3D print and do export, and then we'll just tell the Blender where we want the file to land. And I just have an STLs folder, and we'll say we want the files to land there. Make sure you have STL and export. And it may take a little longer because we have so many polygons. And there we go. We can export it there. If you're having trouble exporting, it is probably because we have just so much geometry going on here. And what we can do, especially if you want to lower the file size of your STL file, you can go to a modifier and add a decimate modifier. And we don't have to apply it, but you can do maybe 0.3. And watch what happens to our wireframe here once it loads. So we were at about 500,000 faces. Now it's only, a quarter, 200,000. So that helped a little bit. You could probably even go lower. It will lose some of your detail. So, only do this if you need to. So, you could even probably go to 0.1. So that took us from, 500,000 to 71,000, so that's already moving way faster there. But that's just some tricks you can do. Still check your geometry. It actually gives a cool look, I think, to the snowman. So your print will actually look like that. It'll have little dragon scales all over it. But that is just optional. If if your computer is getting bogged down, I would do that and then just re-export. And I'll just leave that on. Maybe just rename this snowman low poly since we decimated it, and then just export that. And now we'll have 2 snowmen. So now let's bring it into our slicer of choice. I'm using Simplify 3D. We'll do STLs and we've got both of them. So you can see our regular snowman is 35 megabytes, and the low poly one is about 3.5. So definitely makes a huge difference. I'm just going to go with the high def version. And look at there, this tiny little snowman. Super cute. I may even scale that up just a little bit, maybe to like 150, just to show off some of the detail. And maybe for our settings, since we sculpted and took all that time, maybe we do an infill of 20%. Our layer, I'll do 0.1, so we have a higher resolution, and our shells can be 2. And we don't need any wraps or supports. And we'll just hit OK. And now let's slice it on up and see what we got. All right, so about 2.5, 3 hours, we will have this adorable little snowman. Let's scrub through, see if we have any artifacting going on. Everything looks pretty good so far. Looks great. We've got a nice base there with your text or your logo, ptt.live, and then it will just keep on going up there, not breaking any 45-degree rules so far. And we'll just keep on going. Let's check our hat. Bloop. Oh yeah, we maybe good. Look at there. So now it's got this little curve. That should be totally fine without supports. And there we go. Got a cute little hat. I love it. So now let's go ahead and send our G-code over to our printer and print that thing.